Designated Survivor Episode 5, The Mission. Really enjoyed this one because just like the last one, I think it had a lot of great tension for Kirkman. And, with the last one, he had to go into making all of these decisions. And then in this episode, at least for one of the big decisions he made being, the final one at the end of the last episode, he really had to follow through with that decision. They kind of mentioned the stuff with Governor Royce in this episode, but we don't really see... I knew she was going to start barking. We don't really see the ramifications of that just yet. Like, they kind of mentioned some other stuff where it's like, oh, there have been other governors, and, there's been some other stuff that's happened. But so far, everything is kind of focused on the actual mission to, send these troops overseas. And that's a big thing for Kirkman. It's like, man, his whole thing has kind of been like, I'm really only sure about doing something if I know it's 100%. So he has this 50-50 thing when he goes and he meets the Navy SEALs and he talks to their commanding officer. And he's like, it's about a 50-50 chance. It's not guaranteed that everyone's going to make it out, but we will succeed. That I'm sure of. It's just not certain that everything will go perfectly. And of course that's sadly what ends up happening. We have, these two guys, one guy is married and one guy is married with the child, and it's like they kind of focus on those two. And I thought for sure when they said somebody died, I thought because they injured the first guy who I believe was it was like they mentioned he spent his honeymoon training, so I'm like they injured him, so he wasn't on the mission. And then they had the other guy. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being that guy who died, but it actually ends up being the CO who actually replaced the other guy after he was injured on the helicopter, which I thought was very surprising. Like their first, it was just a natural thing, but their first real issue that actually took out one of the SEALs was actually just a sandstorm. Like they were, zero visibility, and they had to do, like you said, a combat landing. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting them to kind of go that route where it was sort of just, the mission, even the mission itself, like I said, didn't go 100%, but just the start of the mission, them actually getting to the location, ended up being slightly dangerous, just injured someone. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a cool way to kind of add to the mission itself, because it's like, wow, they already had something go wrong, and that was simply a sandstorm. And then we go through the rest of the mission, and Kirkman has to, he decides that he at least wants to watch the mission as it goes down, because he's like, well, I sent these people to risk their lives for this mission and for this country. The least I can do is, watch the footage of them going in. And, he goes to meet them and stuff, and he kind of does his thing, the way he does it as president, where he's fairly nice, and, he respects everyone's time and the sacrifices that they could possibly make. So, he goes and actually meets them and stuff like that. And I thought that was really well done. And, they had that ending scene where, he does the baseball cap thing so that he can go on his own. And they have a great moment where he talks with the other Navy SEAL, where he's like, you should never doubt your decision. Like, we knew the risk, that's kind of why we do this. Like, we follow behind your orders, plain and simple. And, as sad as it is that someone's gone, he should be remembered and respected, for how brave he was and, what he did for this country. So they had a great, final ending for this episode. But they also had some really great stuff on the FBI side of things. Wells is getting like a bunch of crazy information, and now we have the deputy director. He does actually believe her. It's like, oh wow, all these people who worked on this secret room, they all died within, I think they said within like 2 weeks of finishing it. And so we have all these people died of either, what seem to be natural causes or just a bunch of accidents. And then we have room 105, which is like insanely reinforced to withstand a bombing. And so there's so many random suspicious things, and we still don't know who it was that gave Wells this clue, like, hey, find room 105. So, she kind of ends up talking with Hook Stratton in this episode, who I'm really, like this episode, each episode I think they do a little by little, but, and this one is just like, man, she does everything she can to just have a solid favor. And, like, they do it, she doesn't make it as obvious, with the FBI, but I'm like, she gave her that clue, and it's like, hey, the only condition is that I be updated and stuff. And the only reason she'd want to, well, it may not be the only reason, but I assume that based on her character, with her being updated by the FBI and, the president not being updated, it's like, oh wow, she's suddenly even more qualified because, you know, the FBI trusts her more than they trust Kirkman. That's how they probably spin that in the press. So it's like, all right, she wants to be updated. It wasn't as obvious as, you know, with Mrs. Kirkman, where it's like, you flat out owe me one. You know, you owe me a favor in the future, like some, you know, Godfather type stuff. But, you know, she just wants to be updated. And it's like, all right, I'll have this sort of inside clue as to what's really going on. And she may or may not have that clue because, like the deputy director says, it's like, we don't know who the heck we can trust. Like, I believe you now, like, this is definitely an inside job sort of thing. So now that makes me worried as to who we can truly trust. So, you know, Wells might not be updating anybody on anything at this point. But I'm excited to see where they take that. You know, they have their information. They have, you know, this mystery lead, whoever this woman was that called on the phone. But we have an official lead now. Is like, no, this definitely happened. He's in on it somehow, and now he may actually be. I'm assuming this might actually be a part of the plan because we have Hookstradden, who is of course the Republican, but with this guy being a Democrat, he can actually be, you know, vice president and stuff. And like I said, I don't know, you know, considering the situation has never happened, I don't know what the rules would be. With Kirkman being president and the other one being Republican, if he could even offer her vice presidency. But, excuse me, the plan is to offer it to this guy now, and maybe that was the whole point. It was to, you know, set off something crazy, you know, get, you know, a super low person on the chain of command, and then it's like, all right, well, this person is going to be, you know, this person's a Democrat, so that's why they chose, you know, another Democrat to do it, to survive. And so he's like, you know, I don't really want this job, which, like I said, initially it was just like, I wanted to be here to serve and stuff like that, which I don't know exactly what the position that they offered him. I guess, you know, he says he doesn't feel like it really counted as serving, I guess. So now they've kind of upped the ante because Kirkman is like, well, what about vice presidency? Because he does need one, of course. So maybe that was the plan the whole time, is to get someone to vice president, which easily means, all right, well, now we can get rid of, you know, the designated survivor president. So get rid of him, and now you have the vice president take over, who's been in your pocket, and then they have command. I'm sure that won't happen because, of course, Kirkman is the main character of the entire series, so I'm sure he won't die. But I'm gonna assume that that's at least a part of the plan. You know, the guy is involved in something. So I don't know. Maybe it was the plan the whole time. It was like, all right, we'll have this person survive. They'll be found, and then we'll have, you know, whoever, whatever, take over, and then we have our whole little secret organization in the White House, you know, with one of our people as the president. So we got that to look forward to, I guess. And then we have the crazy revelation that I believe their son is Leo or something like that. He may or may not actually be Kirkman's biological son. And he doesn't know that, but they made it seem as though Kirkman himself, he did know that. Like, they had that conversation, and it's like, well, you know, I would assume that she didn't, maybe she did cheat on him, but they made it seem like she was just with the guy before she was with Kirkman, and so now he's in jail, and, you know, she just happened to get with Kirkman, like, very soon after, and it's like, hey, I just found out that I'm pregnant, and maybe, you know, maybe they don't know 100%, I don't know, because it's like, when the guy said that, she's like, oh man, it seems like it's that sort of possibility where they broke up, probably because he was in jail. Or, well, they said it was like 20 years ago or something crazy. It was like over a decade ago where they were dating. So they probably broke up way before he was even in jail, maybe. But, you know, it's just the way the timeline works, I guess. It's the possibility that he could be, you know, her son's father and not, you know, the president of the United States. So it seemed like nothing. You know, at first it was like, it's just some random dude that, you know, that she dated a long time ago, and it's like, you know, he knows, you know, the president knows every detail. It's like, there's no big deal. Like, this is nothing that can come back to bite us. And then, you know, when she actually talks, you know, Miss Kirkman talks with Aaron, it's like, yeah, but he's been saying that Leo might be his son. Or that he was just like, no, he said Leo is his son, so who knows? You know, maybe it'll come out and it'll be a big scandal, and then it's like, no, that actually is his son. They'll do, you know, a DNA test or whatever. But it'll, of course, be a big deal. Like, all this probably isn't his son. You know, with anyone, it's like, especially with you being president, anything you do is a scandal. So even if it was a super long time ago, it's always a scandal. So we'll see. Someone's gonna find out about that. I know that's, you know, it's just like the little hints at this point, but that's gonna come out. I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know if Hookstrad's gonna get her hands on that information, but this guy's in prison and he's just like, yep, that's totally my son. The president's son, it's actually my son. So that's going to get out to somebody who doesn't want Kirkman to be president. So I'm sure it'll be out there. It might take a couple of episodes before that actually happens, but there's no way that that's not going to be found out by somebody, because there's always a bunch of sources. It's like, even in this episode, still can't remember Kyle Penn's character. I know his last name is Wright. I want to say his name is Sam Wright, but I know his last name is Wright. But he's doing the, you know, the press interview and stuff, and he's like, you know, this is happening, that's happening, and everybody just has, like, everybody's got a source all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, well, sources say this. It's like, oh, come on, man, my friend. Basically, this dude was just like, yeah, my buddy told me this happened. I'm like, everybody's got a freaking source on all this secret government stuff. It's unbelievable. So it's going to get out there. That seems to be one of the big things about the show. There's, like, never an actual secret. Something gets out there. Either someone within the White House puts it out there, like Aaron did with the Al-Sakar stuff, or everybody's got their own freaking source somehow. But it'll get out there, I'm sure. But I'm excited for where they're taking things. They got like the FBI stuff. They're freaking out. You know, we got like 2 characters all alone, and they're just scared. Like, who the heck do we trust? Who do we tell? How do we even investigate this further without tipping anybody off? We have, you know, president who's now upset, you know, with this really big decision that he made, and now we have to go into, you know, the fact that they actually caught, you know, the leader of this terrorist group, and they have to figure out how the heck they're going to make this work. Like, eventually there's going to be some information where it's like, it turns out this is not actually the guy. I mean, he's still a terrorist, but, you know, this isn't the guy who actually did the real bombing. So there's just a lot of elements, even to a semi-successful, or mostly successful mission. There's still a lot of elements to the aftermath of that if they have the wrong person, which I would assume they most likely do as far as just what we've seen so far. But I'm really excited for where they're taking it. Of course, I really enjoyed this one, and of course I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And now that they have, well, the man they were looking for, it might not be the right man, but they have the man that they're at least looking for. I want to know what you guys think is going to come of that. I mean, what information is going to be relevant, what is going to be irrelevant, what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, and how is this going to really affect the rest of the series? Because I would assume that whatever information they get is going to affect the FBI stuff, and I believe at some point those 2 characters, we have our deputy director and Wells, I assume at some point they're going to be like, well, we can at least trust the president, but they might not even know that, you know, at this point. They've met him, so they probably know, like, alright, this guy was, he's clearly wasn't in on it, he's just this random dude. So maybe they'll try to, you know, get in touch with him, like, hey, this is what we found out, we don't know who else to trust, so please just keep it between the 3 of us. But maybe it'll go that route. I'm assuming, though, like I said, this mission, them actually capturing this guy, will have some effect, you know, on the FBI storyline as well. But I want to know your predictions for where this capture is going to lead, you know, the rest of the series. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.